420 million views of videos pushing steroids to the young viewers. How easy was it for you to get a hold of these SARMs?
I just had to click on a link that added them to my cart, check them out.
I said, what the hell are you doing? You got to get off this stuff.
You're going to be on testosterone the rest of your life.
You woke up one morning and thought, hell, I'm going blind. Is there anything that anybody could say to you that would get you off of these drugs?
No.
Well, you know, men are likely to build their bodies to draw the attention of women. Although jewelry, tattoos, makeup, and fancy clothes are on the rise, this is what I call the peacock syndrome. Just watch bodybuilders strut their stuff on social media. And teenage boys throughout the country are fueling this trend by lapping up videos from fitfluencers who are pushing unregulated performance-enhancing drugs like steroids, targeting these young wannabe bodybuilders. Now, how bad is that? According to a recent study from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, in the past 3 years, they found 420 million views of videos pushing steroids to these young viewers. Now listen up. Algorithms are not our friends. They don't care about your child. All they care about are eyeballs and getting the viewer addicted. And in this case, it has opened a dangerous stream of online markets for teens looking to get superhero muscular fast. Now, Chris Gutierrez, our senior news anchor on News on Merritt Street, did some investigating for us to see just how easy it would be for a teenage boy to get their young hands on these dangerous drugs.
We found a disturbing black market of steroids sold as supplements all over the internet. Even though these drugs are illegal, here's how they do it. Many of these supplements are sold as research chemicals, which means they're not meant for human use, but they're still finding their way into gyms across the country. Just take SARMs, for example, which stands for Selective Androgen Receptor Modulators. SARMs have never been legal. They've never been prescribed by doctors. In fact, they were studied in the 90s for muscle loss after cancer treatment. Another popular body-enhancing drug is Trenbolone, or Tren for short. These supplements are banned in competitive sports, and they're on the World Anti-Doping Agency's prohibited list. But when we searched online, they're everywhere. We could have paid roughly $200 for a bottle of SARMs and a small vial of Tren. They even promote free shipping. It's that easy. But what's in these pills? One study tested dozens of SARM supplements and found a laundry list of dangerous ingredients, including unapproved hormones and steroids. But because they're sold as supplements, there's no oversight by the Food and Drug Administration, which means people have no idea what they're putting in their bodies.
Well, I'll start with a shameless plug. If you haven't started getting your news on Merritt Street Media, you should. Chris is our senior anchor, and we have hours of news every day. So Dr. Phil Primetime is not the only quality programming you can get on Merritt Street, so you need to start getting your news here as well. Chris, thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So that was a disturbing piece that you just put together. Were you surprised how easy it is for these young men to get their hands on these really dangerous substances?
I was. In fact, when I first spoke to your producer about it, I was blinded to what was going on, to be honest with you. And then I did a deep dive, my producer and I was shocked and disturbed by what we found and how easy it was for me to potentially buy those things.
Yeah. So what do you think's the driving force behind these young boys doing this?
You started this show by telling us how prevalent it is on social media, right? More than 400 million views The problem is our kids get addicted to those things and they can't stop scrolling through those things, right? And so if so-and-so's doing it or if so-and-so's doing it, then I want to try it too. And that's the world we live in. And that's the culture of, hey, this guy's bulking up real quick and I want to make the football team. Maybe I should be doing the same thing. And they get stuck in this cycle of going down this path where it leads to nothing but destruction. And you got to remember what this is doing to their bodies. I've got a 13-year-old son at home, right? He has friends who he looks up to at school and they play football and he wants to be big and do these things. And so we have real conversations at our house because if I'm not talking to him, people on social media will be.
Chris, wait till you hear about 23-year-old bodybuilder Colton. Now, he says he's using steroids now and looking to launch himself to internet stardom at whatever the cost. That's the concern. Whatever the cost. And that's what I mean about immediate gratification. Take a look.
I have an addiction and an obsession with lifting. I can never be big enough. I started because I was getting bullied a lot in school. I was 5 foot tall and around like 100 pounds, and everyone made fun of me. And I actually left school early just because of all the bullying. So I decided to go to the gym. On Instagram, you see a lot of fitness influencers and models, and everyone wants to look like that. A lot of the influencers that I follow, they do take steroids, and so that's another reason why, like, at my age, I hop on gear and take it. I mean, you can get steroids for cheaper than protein powder. I was roughly around 20, 21 years old when I first started steroids. Within like the first 2 weeks, I got all the way up to 170, 175. And then like about a month and a half in, 2 months in, I was at 180, 185. And that was like getting pure muscle. And that's when people started noticing. It felt really good. People call it like a God complex because it literally gives you this placebo effect of feeling like a god, like you can't die. But then the downfall was all the roid rage. Like I would just get mad out of nowhere. I'd just blow up on people and almost lose relationships and friendships from it. My goal is to be Mr. Olympia one day. So I'm not really worried about my mental or physical health at the moment, just because I have my eyes on the prize right now.
Colton, what inspired you to start using these substances?
When I was about 17 years old, I started working out and I wasn't seeing really much results. So I took about a year off. And I came back and I had a growth spurt because I was about 5 foot tall in high school, 100 pounds. I was bullied a lot. So at 18, I came back at like 6 foot, 220 pounds out of shape. So I started working out for the next 4 years and got in really good shape. But then I realized I wanted to take the bigger step and start competing.
So you started steroids at what age?
20, 21, around there.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, I was kind of like hesitant about everything. And then once I got on it and I started seeing more results, I wasn't really as worried. And I was feeling okay and everything, mentally, physically.
You have concerns about this?
Yes. There's a lot of roid rage, and I have to deal with that. And especially just having kids is one of my bigger concerns.
So you don't value all the
No.
muscled up
No, not at all.
sort of
I'm
thing?
with him for who he is, not for what he looks like. I didn't support him at all when he first took it, and I still don't.
Yeah. So who are you doing this for?
Myself.
And what's the payoff?
Just knowing that I made it to the Olympia or just got my pro card and was able to step on stage, because that's just been a dream of mine for the last couple of years.
But at what cost, right?
Yeah, that's your concern, right?
At
Yes.
what cost?
Yes, it is, because I want kids. As a woman, we shouldn't have to be scared or worried or stay up at night wondering if we can have kids or not. And it's a big concern of mine.
Do you think about those things?
Not really. I'm more focused right now, like, on making it on the stage.
And I think that's the case in point, right? For a lot of young men, they can't see past this weekend, let alone what's going to happen 5, 10 years down the road. And here he is. He's made the Mr. Olympia. He's reached that platform. You've reached that platform. But again, he's got a significant other who's saying, I don't love you for this. I love you for being you.
Yeah. Well, once you do that, once you step on this stage, then what?
Well, I'm going to keep going until I win. And then if I win, I want to get another one back to back. I don't have any intentions on stopping until I'm in my older age.
How much do you track the competition on social media? You're looking at these guys?
Yeah, I watch them pretty often, but I don't usually compare myself or anything to them.
Yeah, everybody that believes that, stand on your head. We're going to talk more about this as we get going. All right, Chris, I know you got to get back to the news department. Thank you for your reporting on this. I appreciate it. You can tune in to Chris on News on Merritt Street every night at 7 p.m. Coming up, we're going to meet a former influencer who decided to come clean about his use of performance-enhancing drugs. We're going to add him to the conversation next. Homeowners, when's the last time you checked on your home title? If your answer is never, then this is for you. Scammers are stealing titles and your equity is the target. Criminals forge your signature and just like that, your home title can be transferred out of your name. That's why I partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code Phil at HometitleLock.com and you'll get a free title history report. Plus, you'll get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title. Urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Phil.
I do want to have kids one day. And I know that that is a concern for steroid users is infertility. And that's why my fiancée is like upset about it and worried all the time about it. But at the same time, I'm still here to hit my goals. If I go to a doctor and they tell me that I have low testosterone naturally and that I'm infertile, that's not going to stop me then. Then I'm going to just keep going.
Well, infertility is one of the #1 side effects of steroids, which begs the question why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do. My concern about this is it doesn't make rational sense knowing the side effects. It just doesn't. Now, like Colton, Ryan developed an interest in bodybuilding when he was just 12 years old, but he wanted to follow in his father Shawn's footsteps. So at just 16 years old, Ryan says his muscle gains just really plateaued, so he found another way to get to superhero status.
I was 13 when I posted my first video. It was really easy for me at first to gain attention. I'd make body transformation videos that would get millions of views. Seeing other people online that were getting bigger and stronger, I was influenced to get SARMs. Over the course of about 8.5 months, I went from benching 275 pounds to benching 385 pounds. Things took a turn when I was on a vacation in Hawaii. I cracked open a new bottle of the SARM, and this bottle was more concentrated than normal. And I didn't really think of it at the time. I just took my normal dosing for the night. The next morning, I woke up and I opened my blinds and everything was distorted. Everything was super white. It felt like I was going blind for like 2 or 3 minutes. It was scary. I definitely think that experience motivated me to stop it.
Ryan, let me ask you, how easy was it for you to get a hold of these SARMs, for example?
Pretty easy. I just had to click on a link that I saw like on a YouTube video. Took me right to a website and added them to my cart and checked them out.
Delivered right to your house?
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at your progression here. It had a huge effect, right?
Yeah, it definitely did. There was a time where I really wanted to bring up my strength, specifically with like bench pressing. And so I changed my diet up, I changed my training up, and then I threw in the SARMs. And it was literally within a month of doing all those things that I saw an effect. I was bench pressing one weight the month before, and the next month it was going up like it was air.
Yeah. What did you think about this, Dad?
Well, Ryan has a passion, and he fell in love with the gym. He fell in love with bodybuilding, and he has great genetics naturally, and he progressed very, very quickly. I didn't know that he was choosing to do the SARMs initially. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like, you know, Ryan was very involved with social media on YouTube. A lot of his friends are even today very, you know, high up on the food chain as influencers. And so I think just collectively him being with these other people, seeing their progression, seeing the things they were doing, and seeing their social media grow. I mean, my common sense would say, maybe he's like, okay, what would it be like to go to the next level with my physique? And what kind of attention or what would that do for my social media?
Yeah, and you're talking about the food chain on social media, and the food chain means money. Is that?
Yes.
Have you made money?
I made money, but I was more focused just on the views, actually, not really what I was making.
And the views, what was the payoff for the views?
Kind of just told me that I was doing something right. I was on, the right track, and that I should keep going and doing the things that I'm doing.
So strangers clicking gave you a warm, fuzzy feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't know them?
Not all of them, no.
I mean, these are strangers, right? I mean, you don't know what they're clicking on. They could be clicking just like, wow, look at him. He's really working hard and doing a good job. Or they could be clicking like, look at this freak. You don't know. I mean, you don't know. They're
Absolutely.
just clicking.
Yeah. I've gotten all different types of comments. Yeah, I've gotten you're doing great and your face is ugly and you suck. So I've had everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I get those too.
Yeah.
When you did find out he was using these drugs, what was your reaction?
Well, I wanted to find out more about him. I mean, my history is, when I was a young guy, my passion was bodybuilding, and I moved to Venice Beach and trained at the Mecca, won some shows, was at a national, going for my pro card. I looked around at these muscle giants, and I decided, I wasn't willing to do what it would take to get there and be a pro bodybuilder, because back then there was no money in the 80s. There wasn't the social media in the 80s. But going back to Ryan, I knew nothing about SARMs. So I knew that he wasn't doing steroids. And so then I just thought, well, maybe these are just some supplements he was getting over the counter. I was ignorant to it. And so it wasn't until after when Ryan started explaining to me the negative side effects with his eyesight, and I said, what the hell are you doing? You got to get off this stuff.
Yeah, because you woke up one morning and thought, hell, I'm going blind.
Yeah, I was super scary because the night before I was taking like my normal dose, but I was cracking open a new bottle and it was a lot more concentrated than normal. Obviously, there's no regulations on this, so they can put whatever in it. So it was a lot more concentrated than normal. I pop it in, do my regular dose, go to sleep, and then I woke up and that's exactly what happened. I basically couldn't see for like 2 to 3 minutes, which is a long time when you've been able to see your whole life.
That scared you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looking at it now, being almost 24, I was like 16, 17 back then. Yeah. Sounds insane that I even did that.
Do you think pro wrestlers use these things a lot?
Probably.
I mean, they're like huge.
Yeah. I would say if you're doing professional stuff, you're probably on it.
Have you ever noticed in the media that those guys seem to die a lot at young ages?
Yeah. More recently too, there's been quite a few people.
Yeah, if you look at the stats, they die in their 30s, 40s, and 50s at an alarmingly high rate. And it's always heart or suicide.
Well, it's a big thing because when we get off from the depression.
Yeah, big thing. All right, look, when we come back, one man's encounter with a bin full of syringes at his gym led to his research into social media's push for steroids. We're going to talk to him next. Introducing Beam's Dream Powder, proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values of hard work. It's a science-backed nighttime blend shown to improve sleep, so you can wake up ready to tackle the day. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all-natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Beam has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep, helping people wake up and feel their best. Beam is giving the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil. Use code Dr. Phil at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil for up to 40% off. Support an American company and get your best sleep tonight.
I have been interested in other performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. I research them all the time.
When I was competing again a few years in my 40s, I did share with Ryan that I was using steroids to compete.
My dad and I have had many conversations about steroids. Like, should I do them? Should I not?
For him, he's gonna research it well, get his blood work done, and I'm sure he'll do it the safest, healthiest way.
Callum Hood is the head researcher at the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Now, he led the team in the study that focused on how TikTok videos promote steroid-like drugs. And Dr. Thomas O'Connor is a board-certified doctor of internal medicine and professor at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine. He's also known as the Anabolic Doc, who knows firsthand what it's like to be addicted to performance enhancement drugs. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Dr. Thanks.
Guys, you've been listening to everything that we've been talking about. This is a serious problem, right? Callum, you've really dug into this on social media platforms.
It's a massive problem. We've got teens viewing this stuff hundreds of millions of times. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. This is the content that explicitly talks about steroids. There's plenty more content out there that our report didn't even cover that's promoting both the body image and a range of other drugs and supplements that also carry dangers.
And TikTok videos promoting steroids have been viewed 587 million times just in the last 3 years, with 420 million users aged 18 to 24. So they're being targeted. They're really aiming this through the algorithm. It's feeding this information to these young kids who are vulnerable, wanting to change their body image.
This is a tag team between TikTok and the people pushing these drugs. The algorithm just wants to get teens hooked on this content. So we see it exploits vulnerabilities with young women. It might be their weight. With young men, it's whether they're muscular enough. And then it pushes this content towards them because it wants to get them hooked and make advertising money. And we've seen content that is directly targeting teens, telling them, you're too short, why don't you take these drugs and you'll be tall enough. It's really ruthless, and it's all to make a quick buck.
Yeah, and doctor, it's very dangerous.
I mean, Dr. Phil, it's been going on for a very long time. We know a lot about the health consequences. But for these guys, when you're so young and you're so charged, you know, and these drugs work, right, for the last 40 years, and they can't grasp and see the cardiac risk, the hypercoagulable blood clots like you're talking about that I've seen so many for 20 years doing this as a doctor. But for these guys, the number one risk, and you mentioned it, is they're going to get shut down. The natural production is shut down. This is where people don't know. And that is in part with the infertility. You see, these guys are bro science guys, and I'm not putting this guy down. I want to help him. It's just called bro science, and it's all online. And now it's accelerated to the point that you see. But it started in the 90s, you know, really coming out of the gyms with the social media and the connections. And now the spectrum of drugs is incredible. So they're going to get shut down, and he's going to have to be on testosterone forever. And what were your thoughts on Ryan waking up and being blind in the morning? Well, thank God it was temporary and it resolved. I've seen this with a dozen patients out of 10,000 in 20 years. It's unregulated. That's the problem. Right. When it's not regulated, the mix can be anything. You have no idea what you're getting. You have no idea. And you're thinking about going back on steroids, right?
I do think about it. I mean, I'm still among the culture of bodybuilding every single day. Even though I've stepped away from social media, I'm still looking at it every single day. So there's definitely still daily influence that makes me think about it. And I'm always researching stuff.
Yeah, look, people don't do things without a payoff. These guys are intelligent young guys, sharp, good personalities. What's their payoff? We're going to dig into this. And we also did a poll with our audience, the audience women. We're going to get their opinions when we come back.
I left social media because basically I had a self-identity crisis. My identity was so closely related to how I looked.
I definitely would say that I have body dysmorphia. I definitely don't like my physique even now. I never have been good enough. I feel like men are not as open to talking about body dysmorphia. Guys, like, they're just like, oh, no one's gonna listen to me, you know?
When I was L's age, I played football in Division I, and it was before the NCAA was like the FBI, and so they didn't check a lot of this kind of stuff. I didn't do any of these kind of drugs because they scared the bejeebers out of me. But I had teammates that were certainly suspect, and I've seen firsthand how this affects people psychologically. And then some of this causes problems with tendons and ligaments, and they'd get so big and then they'd just pop their tendons and be out for a year. There's so much wrong with this stuff. You said you started it because you felt inferior because you were really small?
I
got
started
bullied?
bodybuilding. Yeah, I started working out and then take the next step later on.
Yeah. And why did you start it?
I started because my dad owns a gym, and he was working like 14 to 16 hours a day, and I never really got to see him. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go to his work and hang out with him there. And he was like, all right, well, let's get some workout sessions in. And then I started falling in love with bodybuilding.
So Dr. O'Connor, what is bigorexia?
Bigorexia is really reverse anorexia. It's a subset of obsessive compulsive disorder underneath this. And it's an obsession with not being big enough and not feeling satisfied with your gains.
Mm-hmm. What's the currency for these guys? What is it they're after?
It's very simple. It's when you go in the gym, even without steroids, and you get a great pump and you get admired more by men, alpha, you know, right, guys?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's not really women. Funny enough, women will say, like, you're so muscular and that's nasty. I'm not attracted to that, honey. But we're men. We're not the brightest bulbs. So we're doing it for each other. And so it's really, I think, of a loss. I went into steroids myself because I had a lack of a father figure. I think in the protection, there's some data for that. And then once you're in it, Dr. Phil, the pump is unreal. The high is the currency.
We see them strut around women a lot. We see them at the beach and parties and stuff like that. So we asked women what appealed to them. And we presented 4 body styles. And let's look at the results of what you say you prefer.
Yeah, wow.
1.2% say you prefer skinny. 93.6 said you preferred athletic. And then the very strong was only 1.6. You don't want to be with the Hulk.
Yeah.
Does that surprise either of y'all?
No. I mean, I'm not worried about, I'm not looking for anyone, so I'm just going for myself.
All right, well, I want Callum to talk to us after the break about how Tik Tok responds to Callum's study. They disagree with his research. 18,000 other articles agreed. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Do you have bigorexia? It's a never-ending cycle of you get gains, 2, 1, temporary relief, and then it's followed by feelings of dissatisfaction and suffering. Social media fuels it 24/7.
Well, Colton and Ryan both say they've used steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs to gain the kind of body that are idolized on social media. By who? Well, not by women. We've kind of sussed that out. Dr. O'Connor says he would like to convince them to stop before it's too late. And researcher Callum Hood found that social media platforms are using algorithms to send out messages romanticizing steroid use to young teens. Now, TikTok says, not true. Just not true. However, when you look at the actual results, how can they say that's not true?
What I'm most interested in is the actual experience of young guys who are using these apps. And that's all we're testing out. When we set up an account on there and we tell TikTok, we're 13 years old, we're a young guy, and then we see what results we get. And you can hear it in what Ryan and Colton have been saying, you know, they're presented with this body image and you guys aspire to it, you know, and that's partly why you got into this. And you're rewarded as well when you post this stuff. You know, you go up the algorithm, more people see it, and you feel good about it. And, you know, the funny thing is, these statistics in our report, those are TikTok's statistics. And, you know, the main thing they've done since our report, they've wiped them off their website. So we've got less information to have this really important conversation and about how this is affecting young men.
So you would create a profile and open up an account, say 13-year-old boy. How long did it take before they started getting hit with this kind of information?
We're talking minutes, not days, you know, in terms of how long it takes to get content that promotes that extreme muscular superhero physique. And then the more you get into that, TikTok might learn you're quite interested maybe in the most extreme stuff, that you might be interested in this stuff that's about the drugs themselves.
Yeah. And TikTok says your methodology is not scientific. It says it's all too small a sample size.
We've done this multiple times, multiple accounts, multiple countries. It's very consistent. And again, a lot of these statistics, they're the ones that TikTok put out there themselves. And they can't really argue with them. And they know that. That's why they've removed these stats from the app completely.
There's an article out there that says that CCDH researchers trained the algorithm that they liked this content and then act surprised when they got similar content. How did you train the algorithm to give you that content?
What we do is just we follow the behaviour of a young man, you know, who's got an interest in this stuff. We've done it with accounts that, you know, look like they're young girls as well, who have an interest in body image. So for young girls, that might be really thin. For young men, we've looked at expressing that interest in videos. And all it means is you just watch that video and you like that video and then you see what it gives you next. And you can see that algorithm responds very aggressively because it wants you to get hooked on this content and it will show you more and more extreme stuff. There's been many studies, not just us, that show that this is the case with a lot of social media platforms who want that, you know, the money that is to be made from showing teens ads.
Yeah, there were thousands of replications of this. You're not the outlier. Mm-hmm. You're a leader, not an outlier. Correct. And then people replicate what you found over and over. That's why I'm telling you, this algorithm is kind of like a black box. Nobody understands it. It's what I call the mystery-mastery complex. If they maintain some mystery, then they can maintain mastery. But it's really not that hard to unpack. It looks at who the user is, and then it pays attention to their viewing patterns. And they can start funneling information to them. And if they take the bait, man, it just goes crazy and starts funneling it to them. You did the same thing with 13-year-old girls.
Exactly.
And you add 2 words like lose weight to an account, and the toxic information that flowing to that account by just adding those 2 words, lose weight, went up like 12-fold in a matter of minutes.
Absolutely correct.
It's just unbelievable.
Like you say, it's only them who know the full extent of this problem. And we know it's a big cultural phenomena. I personally got into this because I was going to the gym in London and I found a box of syringes hidden in the behind the sink there, you know, and that's when I realised this is a big cultural phenomena. And it's important for us to be having this conversation about it, what the risks are, why are young men doing this. And TikTok holds a lot of the information on that would allow us to have that conversation. They don't want to share it.
We have a statement from TikTok. Content that is instructing, selling, or depicting using selective androgen receptor modulators, SARMs, violates our community guidelines and will be removed when detected. I feel so much better. Social media companies are here to get your children addicted to whatever they're selling so that your children become lifetime customers. Look, they prey on your children's insecurities and they don't care if the content is harmful to their minds or bodies. Now, Dr. O'Connor, you suffered the consequences of avid steroid use. What happened?
I was training around the age of 13, naturally, up till 23, you know, drug-free, natty. back in the 80s, it was the accessibility to steroids. So it wasn't easy to get or to do. So I waited to the age of, that was probably 19 or something. I finally went to the dark side. You know, I actually took the steroids to Europe because I didn't want to do them here because I was so against them verbally. I was just very strong, and I'd be even training and kind of bombastic in the gym that I'm drug, you know, this is for you guys, you steroid guys. I mean, I did that. And then I got the drugs, went to Europe, and it just didn't go well. Testicles were painful, and I had some sexual issues. And I just came off, and I did recover. And then subsequently went back to America, got into my occupation before I was a physician. And from the age of about 23 to 28, I went on about 5 cycles. And every time you go on, you just dread coming off because it's working, you feel great. Like these guys right here, or this guy. And then about the age of 28, I just was so depressed and felt so tired. I was getting ready to go into med school, trying to figure this all out, you know. And I felt tired. I didn't even check my levels. And I started taking testosterone. I've been on testosterone for 35 years, just maintaining myself. That's why I went into this, to protect these guys. You know, I'm one of them. Now I'm older, not wiser. And the number one risk is they're going to get shut down. And they say at this age, that's okay. But we have no research. We need more data for this.
Yeah. Is there anything that anybody could say to you that would get you off of these drugs?
No, not at the moment. Probably not in the next 5-7 years, for sure.
How do you pay your bills?
I make money on like Instagram and everything.
It's kind of like a dark circle here. You're doing things that put your body and life in jeopardy, and you're getting paid to do it. And you keep doing it, and you keep getting paid to do it. Yeah. So you're locked into a vicious circle.
Yeah, but I was doing it also before even like posting on social media as well, you know, because I still see that dream in the end, just stepping on that stage.
Anything can be said to you to keep you from going back on steroids?
Yeah, I think so. Hearing stuff like that doesn't motivate me to want to get back on. I'm just really interested in how they do affect the human body. There's so much more research out there now that I just find myself looking into.
Yeah. You know, it all comes down to how you measure your self-worth. And you need to be talking to your kids about this. Well, I'm back with Colton and Ryan, who both have gotten caught up in the use of performance-enhancing drugs in the past. And Callum Hood is here and has done a lot of research into the social media influence on this with young men. And the good doctor here who's been on both sides of this. You've been on the side of being a user and treating and researching these things. And I don't think I've overstated the dangers, have I?
No, you have not.
Sadly. I've written a book entitled We've Got Issues. And in that, I say that families in America are under attack and that social media is one of the things that is eroding our values and our thinking. And in that book, I set out 10 principles for a healthy society. And principle number 1 is you got to be who you are on purpose. And that means live with intent. One of the things about young people is the last part of your brain that grows is the neocortex, which is foresight. It's all the executive functions. It's foresight, being able to predict the consequences of your actions. And I encourage you to really think about the long-term effects. You've got a fiancée who wants to have a family, and she's saying, look, I'm concerned about this, and you're basically saying, I don't much care about that. And I'm hoping you'll really think about that and weigh it because, you know, principle number 4 that I set out in this book that's important for a healthy society is that we have to measure all actions based on results and all thoughts based on rationality. And rationality is not a word we use a whole lot, but that's not a hard test to use for your thoughts. I kind of think about 4 things for you to use to determine whether you're thinking rationally or not. Number 1 is your thought based on empirical, verifiable fact or criteria. I mean, whatever you're telling yourself, just, is this true? Is this factual? Or am I just blowing smoke at myself? Number two is this in my best interest? Does it get me what I want? And four, does it protect and prolong my life? And if you have a thought that fails any of those four criteria, you need to kick it to the curb and get another one. If you're telling yourself something that's not factual, it's not in your best interest, it doesn't get you what you want, it doesn't protect and prolong your life, that's not a healthy thought. And you need to get another one. And if you're thinking about going back on steroids, test it against this criteria for rational thought, and it won't make it. You know, we need to start thinking that way about everything in our lives. That's just a good habit to get into. And we're getting a lot of stuff pushed on us right now through social media and other things. We need to start evaluating and say, wait a minute, is this factual? Or is it just something I read on the internet? That's a good test to do. I hope all of you will think about this. I hope you'll talk to your sons or grandsons about this, because what Callum is telling you is these platforms, they're not looking out for your children's best interest. That's up to you. And you're not going to be the only voice in your child's ear, so you better make damn sure you're the best voice in their ear. I want to thank Chris Gutierrez, Dr. Thomas O'Connor, Callum Hood from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, and really all of my guests. We'll have even more information on our website, so make sure to log on to drphil.com. There is so much going on here right now. To keep up, text me at 59627. Simply type Phil, P-H-I-L, and we'll keep you posted on every step of the way of what's going on. Every episode of Dr. Phil Primetime is because of you. Real people, real stories, looking for real solutions. That's what we're about. So head over to drphil.com and tell me your story, and you can very well end up right here on stage with me. And if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or plan to be, we'd love to have you join us in our studio audience. The tickets are free, and it's just real easy to get them. So scan the flow code on the screen or go to drphil.com and click on Be Part of the Audience for all the details. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Hey, Dr. Phil here. My network, Merit TV, has it all.
Now, let me blow your mind.
Merit TV's got the news that matters.
The selection of a new pope.
Entertainment you crave.
Busted. Everybody in good mood today?
And live events.
Surprise. What, am I chopped liver?
With serious punch.
Big shot!
Go to merittv.com and download the Merit TV app today.